how do you know Richard Branson? Is it just because you're both from, from the UK? Like, what is that?
Yeah, me, him, and the Queen are friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, not anymore. I mean,
not anymore. Best piece.
We came from very different backgrounds.
Be classy, be genuine, be grateful.
I wanted to help out and contribute and sort of give back to the people that had helped me.
Man, welcome to the intro. No need for introductions. All about the world and the world what we discussing. Where every single thought that we had came from something. So it's funny that we made it when we started here with nothing. Gotta open up your mind just to find out why. When you lost inside the dark, just gotta turn on the light. And no matter what you do, you never run from a fight. Because we fighting to be better and that's why we strive.
Hi, I'm Corey McCain, CEO of We Strive, the #1 platform for personal trainers, gym owners, and coaches to both manage and scale their business. I'm your host for Why We Strive, where every Tuesday I sit down with some of the most incredible tech founders, investors, and creatives to find out how, when, where, and why they strive. Be sure you tune in every single Tuesday and check us out at whywestrive.com for more info. Now, let's get to this week's episode. So we're on, I believe this is interview 13 or 12, and first Brit. So I want to welcome Matthew Doyle. Matthew, if you want to introduce yourself really quick.
Yeah, well, better sooner rather than later to get your first Brit. I'm Matt Doyle. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Array, and it's no-code internal app building. So it's like Microsoft Power Apps, but for everybody else.
Very cool. Well, that was actually one of my questions was, is it Build Array or is it Array? Because I'm sure you get that a lot.
Yeah, well, we actually rebranded. I don't know if you know that. We never used to be called, we weren't always called Array. We were called LaunchCloud at first, and we own LaunchCloud.com.
Well, that's a good name.
I think it was, but I think the word cloud aged a bit, like I'm sure crypto terms will. And so we rebranded, and we never wanted, the big component of what we do has like forms technology in it for like operations things. So we never wanted to be like coolforms.com because we never wanted to be, we were always going to be more than what that component is. Yeah. And so when we did rebrand, we looked to buying array.com from somebody, but they wouldn't sell it. They wanted to lease it for like crazy money. So someone
leasing a domain. What are the terms on that? Like how many years?
I don't know. They just want a ton of money. Like I think they want like $9,000 a month to lease it or something.
That's so annoying.
So we would have paid a decent amount of money for it. Yeah. But some other sort of like fintech company is using it at the moment. So
gotcha.
Let them pay for it.
I couldn't imagine ever leasing temporarily a domain. That's ridiculous.
I think so too.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, especially if you're like 2 years in and you still don't know. Like at any point they could just pull domain access. Like
yeah, like
ridiculous.
we approached them a few times and said, "Come on, guys, you must be joking. What's your number? What's your number?"
Yeah.
And but yeah, you don't want to build domain authority and stuff like that. Like a big part of what we do marketing wise is SEO and content. And stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm a big SEO guy too. I couldn't imagine building a SEO brand off of a leased domain.
No, that would be bad. And we had quite a good domain authority with launchcloud.com, so we were already having to start again with that. So we wanted to make sure that we were knowing what we were going to do it on. So Build Array was worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did the same thing literally this year. We went from westriveapp.com to westrive.com, and it took about 6 to 8 months until I started to see like some actual like Google traction coming in. It's just switching I'm still using like 4 emails after we switched. Like it's super annoying to do that process.
Yeah. There was another one I looked at, but I was like, that's a really good domain. That's really good. And then I realized what it sounded like. It was goarray.com. So it sounds like go
away, but with like a
yeah. So I was like, no, imagine that would be good.
Hey, go Array.
Go Array. What?
That's hilarious. Okay, did you choose your company name based on the availability of the domain, or were you already set on Array?
No, when we wanted to rebrand to Array, we wanted to make sure that it still had the same kind of name as like a bit more general name, like Oracle or Apple or whatever. It doesn't necessarily say what it is. It's just kind of a name that you can remember. Yeah. And we wanted to come up with a name that was kind of fairly straightforward. We work with a lot of blue collar industries and stuff, so we didn't want to kind of do something too playful, things like that. And when we were discussing kind of what Array is and what it was going to be, because where we started years ago and where we're going now is not, it's constantly evolving where we're going. So we wanted a name that kind of said all of those things. And so when I was discussing what array really is at the core, which is a way of building dynamic databases, a data array, an array of uses, we landed on array.
Very cool. That's kind of similar how I landed on WeStrive. We had a stupid name. It was called Perfect, Perfct. It was like fit capitalized. Terrible SEO.
That's the thing. Like also when you come and like spell a normal word in a weird way,
it's the worst way to do it, in my opinion. I think it's terrible SEO. Like, it's easy to get the SEO, but it's going to be spelled wrong every time.
Yeah.
But for us, like, I noticed the word Strive was in our pitch decks constantly, and I was like, I kind of like that more. And I like that we moved generically because we're going to do a lot of things in the future. And I didn't want to be stuck on just fit. Like, what if we do health? What if we do nutrition?
Absolutely.
It's like, so that's cool. You guys went that way.
Yeah.
Can you dive into a deeper level on what you guys do? So, like, you do like giant cloud infrastructure for like the Walmarts of the world and that kind of stuff. So, like, what do you guys specifically do?
So we work in the industries we work in. Walmart is one of our clients. We do all the South African locations right now.
You're in the South African Walmarts?
All of them.
Very cool.
Yeah, we did about 200 million answers with them last year.
So
200 million answers. So, I said forms is a bit of what we do.
Yeah.
And you imagine each question in the form is an answer. So we did 200 million.
That's insane.
That's quite a lot.
What does that mean when you're doing, like, you're like the customer support, or like answer was already created, or you're creating the answer?
Well, yeah, that's what I explained. So we work in the risk operations sort of functions within a business. It doesn't matter what industry or vertical it is, that's what we tend to work in. And there was an industry we used to service more, which you can ask me about in a second if you like, and I'll tell you a bit more about that other industry. But we're helping them digitize what would have been paper and pen, or what would have been used when they use Excel for data collection. It would have been those types of things. And we're built for enterprise. Okay. So what that means, what does that mean? Because that sounds like bullcrap, right? Yeah. What it means is scalability, because you do need to be able to scale to these massive numbers. And because when I said 200 million answers, that doesn't include the PDF documents we're creating dynamically, emails that are triggering, and workflows that are triggering. It's a massive load of data. People like that, we have to go through massive security compliance. So we've got security compliance out of the box, encrypted, data in transit and at rest, multi-factor authentication. So all the security, because that's a big thing obviously for enterprises, and we don't try and sell to the IT department. We try and sell to the operations department. So we just need to let them know that it's all good. That they're going to be safe. So security is another enterprise requirement, along with like user permissions and ADFS, all these other things that competitors, or maybe not even competitors, but people who are using other types of products to solve these problems.
Gotcha. So they're going from like they're doing all their like employee onboarding, or they're doing like some sort of like staffing paperwork and that kind of stuff, and it's all like on pen and paper. We
do some employee on board, but like the risk, operations, audit, compliance, so food safety checks, if people slip and fall, how does that get recorded? Stock in some cases. We did a lot of stuff. We started exploding in COVID. We did a lot of COVID pre-checks, so stopping people coming in if they were symptomatic and things like that.
Okay.
So that's like the stuff we did with like people like Walmart, but we also work in energy. So we did wind farms. So we did environmental studies, so they're using it to drag and drop data into a form. We're working just some stuff with Unilever, which is impact studies. So they're sending this out to thousands of other versions of the company. We're working in insurance. So right now we've got a load of people using Array in Florida right now, recording all the storm damage.
Gotcha.
So they use our system to drag and drop and make an app. Basically, we make an iOS and Android, and they can build a data collection app which can be deployed into the field, and hundreds of people are collating the storm damage that's happened. And that goes to, what happens is normally that would have taken about a month, like per house. So they go and collect the data, they note it down on pen and paper, or they do it in Excel, or maybe other systems. They take pictures, and then they'd have to go back to the hotel room over the next few weeks and collate these into reports, which then go to the company that's looking at these properties, these inspection companies. They check it. Once they're happy with that then goes to the underwriter, and the underwriter in this case is Lloyd's TSB in the UK. They'll be underwriting a lot of this storm damage that's happening now. So there's about 30 days. That now takes 24 hours in Array.
So cool.
Because they capture it all in one app. They press a button, and even if there's no service, our apps work completely offline. As soon as they have signal, it hits the server and it spins up all the underwriting documents automatically.
Gotcha.
And we have conditional logic and mathematical equations in the form that actually calculate the value as well.
That's crazy. So Okay.
So it's an app builder.
Yeah, gotcha.
But we don't like to say that because we're not trying to be Figma, or we're not trying to be Webflow, who are building like nice little, websites and apps. We're internal application building. So we often bump into legacy tools like Oracle or SAP, and we just lodge them, or we bump into Microsoft Power Apps. If you've heard of that tool before.
What was the name?
Power Apps by Microsoft. So Microsoft have one program called Power Apps, but they have a platform called Power Platform, and that is Power Apps, Microsoft BI, some workflow tooling, and some live chat tool.
Gotcha,
We're not trying to do everything those tools do. We try and do like 70% of them, but make it actually genuinely easy to use.
Gotcha.
So they're what's called low code applications. So you have to know a bit of development and code to maintain them, but we are no code. Meaning it's all drag and drop, and we work not with the IT team but the operations team.
Gotcha. Okay.
They know what's up. They know what they want to achieve, and we just give them the tool to do that. You might have heard of the citizen developer before. Well, we call them blue collar coders because they tend to be blue collar industries.
Nice. Okay. So you're going into these Walmarts and taking like all of these years of paperwork and everything and just making it like, okay, now it's in an app and you can just drag and drop and you're done. You're to go.
Yeah, and then they do it themselves. The whole system's a self-serve unit. We tend to land and expand for an organization. Okay. So we start off in a small amount. They can just purchase it on their credit card, try it out, solve that one problem, and then it expands and they use it in lots of other areas.
What's your guys' business model? Is it like on a per answer basis, or like on how much your, like a calculation of how much your servers cost to maintain, or like how does that work?
We out of the box, it's per user per month. Okay. And then each user is someone filling in the data, collecting data, or it could be someone building stuff, or it could be someone analyzing and reporting. It's in the insurance industries, we sometimes work per claim. Okay. Because it's multiple things that have to happen to come to a claim.
So on a per user basis, does that mean like in the Florida situation, everyone filling it out to get their house claimed on the insurance form, or is it the people that are setting up the app? Like who are the users in that sense?
They're called appraisal companies. So they're inspection companies that are going to inspect the damage. They're usually specialists in that area.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the homeowner doesn't know what tool they're using.
Gotcha. Okay. But so you're charging on how many inspectors there are, or how many homeowners?
So they'll in just like I said, we normally charge per user. Like most people pay that, but like because these people spin workers up for a very specific time of the year and then they spin them down, that business model doesn't really work for these people.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they pay per claim, and they'll probably do 30,000 claims in the next few weeks.
Oh, very cool. And then, okay, so that's good revenue for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So when you guys first got started, like who was like your first big client that you guys worked with?
So that goes back to that point I was making. Like we didn't start in this space. We started in field marketing. That was an area that I had expertise in. So what field marketing is if it can mean a few things, but if brand activation field marketing, you've ever gone and people are giving you free samples of something in a street, that's field marketing. And there's also kind of marketing where they go into a store and check the stock levels and stuff like that as well, and the POS and the layout. So our first client was a company called Leah Burnett. Okay. May not have heard of it, may have heard of it. If you're in the marketing industry, you probably would have heard of Leah Burnett. They're actually mentioned in Mad Men. They're one of the world's biggest like ad agencies, like Saatchi and Saatchi and things like this. And so we worked with them guys, and we worked with Bosch, the electronics company Bosch, and their coffee machines. So they were demoing their coffee machines, and we were the data collection about customer feedback and sales made and things like that from the store locations. Cool. And we did a few things, like we did Coca-Cola, we did Nintendo, but the problem with that industry is it's very fickle. So you can be the best thing ever. Like we did Coca-Cola for like 2 or 3 years, and then Coca-Cola, cool, we're not promoting Coke Zero anymore, and that's it.
And you were on the Coke Zero account specifically, or just like?
Yeah, we were on Coke Zero. I think we might have done Fanta as well. I don't. You don't really have Fanta over here, do you? You do.
We have Fanta.
Yeah, Fanta. Yeah. So so we did those. But then we still work in the field marketing industry a little bit. We work with Philip Morris Tobacco on their vaping products, and we do a lot with that. And we actually transact all the payments, and we track all the staff and all their sales and all their whereabouts and the stock. And that's a big one for us. And we're just starting to roll out into the rest of Europe with those guys. We have like custom dashboarding and stuff with them as well. So they build the dashboarding in Array, or the data collection tools. It all works offline. It's pretty cool. But we don't typically go into the field marketing. If they come along, we help them, and we're there to help them. But we typically work in, like I said, risk, operations, compliance, audit.
Is it hard to stay focused for you guys? I feel like you guys, your tool can do so many things, and you guys can do so many industries. Like, is it hard to feel like we're only doing this?
That was the biggest blessing and curse for a long time. I think it is hard for startups and for people like us, because yours may be somewhat more. It seems more straightforward, right? But it's not, is it? Because when you're inventing something that doesn't really exist, there's so many areas that it could fit into, and Array's even worse for that, because it's literally who uses paper and pen to they don't, like so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we had to find out the people who are the right kind of user personas for us. And we never wanted to turn people down, but the more we focused on this kind of this space, the more success we've had. And we've been working more with enterprise companies, and we had to nail down how you could close an enterprise deal without a massive long sales cycle and lots of expensive salespeople. So we've been working on that, and we've been narrowing down these verticals, and we're very specific about these verticals. And we even see where there's sort of, like I said, there's so many apps for different things nowadays.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easy, like, well, you're like this. No, but you're like this. You're like this. And there's and you'll probably find the same thing yourself in your world, is that like it's easy to be compared because there's an app for everything nowadays. So it's even more important to be more specific. To the what you do and the problem you really solve.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're going into a Walmart to land them, like, because you're mentioning that you're trying to reproduce and accelerate your enterprise closing situation. So like, what are you doing to land a Walmart? Are you just kind of like, hey, it does this, like try it out, or like what is is it like a 10-month process? Like, what is the process like to land a Walmart?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we were trying to nail down in our for our pre-seed round was, can we land and expand through an organization, and can we start small and scale up? So that's what we were proving out. We have proven that to be the case, where we can come in with a small credit card payment of like $40, $300 a month, because these enterprises do have discretionary budgets and they do have credit cards. But then when you get to a certain threshold, it gets pretty serious. So, like we just went through a 3-month-long security audit, and they hacked us for 2 weeks.
Like intentionally?
They hire a hacker to come and hack you. So there is stuff. It gets pretty spicy.
Is that kind of scary? Like you're at home. Like I wonder if they're hacking us right now. Like
we knew they were doing it, but there's not really much you can do. Like you either got the stuff in place or you haven't. But I mean, my CTO was.
So you're not like like in a movie. You're not hacking them back like
Boris from GoldenEye. I'm invincible. No. I mean, because they would know that you did that.
Gotcha.
And that's not the point of the hack or the penetration test. But there's the biggest work was all the additional policy writing that you have to have. We have a guy on staff that does all of our cybersecurity policies and things like that. He's got a master's degree in computer security and stuff. So
very cool.
That sort of stuff comes up. But once you have certain things in place, then that obviously lends itself to other people. The biggest thing about enterprises is you want to get an RFP, or you want to get a proposal in place, a test in place somehow, the word I'm looking for is a pilot in place. Then you can then you do all the rubbish of supplier onboarding. It's a pain. And then even if you're getting $10, it's actually easier to hire you in the future because you're a supplier. So that's how we approach it, and we get a lot of people who do come through the website because of SEO and stuff, and we just want to help them and be useful, and then they'll hopefully scale up. Right now we're involved in a program funded by the Walton family,
cool.
The family and Walmart.
Very cool.
And those guys accepted us, and I've been spending a lot of time in Bentonville in Arkansas.
You keep calling me on the way back from Arkansas. You're like you're bored for 12 hours.
Well, I've only got 9 hours.
Well, your last call turned out well because you reminded me of a buddy that I needed to follow up with, and now him and I are going to partner. So I was like, that was a good call. One thing I want to touch on really quick is just the UK in general, in the startup scene, and we'll start off hot with you're like the reason that Richard Branson came and spoke at Capital Factory, which I should have gone to. I thought I was going to see him that night at his party, but he wasn't there or whatever. Anyways, so you're like on stage talking with Richard Branson, doing like a, like a panel with him. So how do you know Richard Branson? Is it just because you're both from, from the UK? Like what is that?
Yeah, me, him, and the Queen are friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, not anymore. I mean,
not anymore. I don't know. Do you, before I go into this, because obviously people we're talking to now don't know what I'm about to say, but have I told you the full story before? The Richard Branson story. I mean, this is the time, but have I?
I feel that he was like Matt, like he kind of knew.
No, not that bit. Before. So I'll get on to that. Okay. So I first met Richard. I was about 24.
Okay.
So this is a while ago. I'm like 36.
I was going to guess 36. That's weird. Yeah.
37 next week.
There you go.
And thank you. And so yeah, what it was is like I really wanted to quit my full-time job. I'd been a UX designer and a graphic designer that's what I taught at school, but I could never really kind of get enough momentum to sort of do that full-time.
Gotcha.
And but I've been working on freelance clients in the background.
Cool.
And but to sort of build up a bit of income outside of my day-to-day job, and I was doing crappy jobs so that I could do design in the evening and not be too exhausted. So I used to have some cool jobs. I used to work for Sony Ericsson, if you remember that. That was a thing.
So
the cell phone company.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to do the marketing for them and things like that.
Yeah.
But then I was doing these crappy jobs, and I was doing design in the evening. And one of the things I tried to do to sort of subsidize my income was work for marketing agencies, and because that's what I'd done for Sony and other things. And I was working for one marketing agency, and they were launching Richard Branson's book, Business Stripped Bare. Which was like, I don't know when that was. You could probably Google that and find out when that book was launched. But we were it was being launched at the Rooftop Gardens in Kensington, which was a nightclub he used to own in Kensington, like a very exclusive club. So this marketing agency I was working with said, "Oh, would you mind going there and helping launch the book?" I was like, "Yes, immediately, yes."
Yeah,
but this is the kicker, right? The kind of uniform or whatever that we had to wear was a bowler hat and like a suit and a bow tie because it was business.
Yeah.
But stripped bare, so we weren't wearing any trousers. We were just wearing boxer shorts. And
with the suit top?
Yeah, so suit top, boxer shorts, and then like socks kind of pulled up with sort of smart shoes. And so Richard was there. It was just more of a journalist event. So it was just journalists taking pictures and him posing with the book and stuff and posing with us.
Were the journalists in that outfit too, or just you guys that were
No,
hosting?
just us, the agency. And so somewhere there is a picture of me and Richard, and I've got no trousers on. But I remember following up with the photographer at the time, and he never got back to me. So that's somewhere. But what happened at the end of the night is there was a big pile of books. I said, if you want, you can have one of these books. And then Richard will sign it. And Richard's like, oh, how's it going? And he's signing these books, and he says, who should I make it to? I was like, oh, Matt. I said, oh, Richard, I've been trying to jump and do this business, but I'm just so nervous about just going poor. And he said, oh, well, Matt, you just got to go for it.
Yeah.
And he wrote in my book, Matt, go for it, and signed it and gave it to me.
No.
And then years went by, and I did quit my job pretty much a week or two after that. I managed to quit a full-time job, and I did freelance design for quite a few years. But then I wanted to build something that was bigger than myself, and that's where I started to look into building Array. In the UK, Virgin Startup had just got spun up in the UK, which was Richard taking some of the money out of one of the railway lines that he owned and funding early-stage startups. Cool. So it was like a low-interest loan, wasn't based on your credit file, it was based on your business idea, and they bet it that way. So what they did is I thought, this is amazing, I want to get involved with this however I can, because this is going to be a really cool thing to be involved in.
Of course, yeah.
So like the very, very earliest meetings that Virgin Startup will start organised, they only had like 3 or 4 staff running the company. I would go to them and wherever they were in the country and just try and get involved somehow.
I love that.
And I got friendly with the team, and they said, oh, you should come to see Richard speak here, read there. I went to see him in Newcastle, and I went to... I think I saw him somewhere else as well, but I remember seeing him in Newcastle, which is quite away from where I live, but it was just really cool to go and see Richard Branson speak.
And you're from London, right?
I'm from London, so
so
Newcastle's like a plane, it's an hour or so plane journey. And so I ended up getting more and more involved with Virgin Startup, and I became what's called a Virgin Startup ambassador. And they invited me to Richard's house for lunch. Very cool. I went and had lunch with Richard at his house in Oxford, which is where the Sex Pistols recorded, God Save the Queen. And very cool. There's a Phil Collins recorded there, and the Rolling Stones are recorded there. Nice. It's a really cool stately home. If you've ever read his books, he mentions his home in there. And so I actually got to meet Sam and Holly, who is son and daughter, and they're about the same age as me. And we just had kids. We both had just had kids.
Nice.
And Anyway, I got to meet Richard and we had some lunch together and we walked around his lake. He's like this lake. And
He has his own lake.
Yeah, he has his own lake. And so I thought, oh my goodness, how can I be memorable to him?
Yeah.
Without being really cheesy.
Did he remember you from the
Cringe.
first like trouser?
Well, I said to him, last time we met, like I wasn't wearing trousers. And he's like, what? He loves that. He loves a bit of banter. So that's how I got attention. And we talked around the lake and that.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, I met him a few more times. Just at it was the Fast Growth 100, which is the Telegraph newspaper does about 100 fastest growing privately held companies, and he would always sponsor that and come to that. So I saw him at those things, and just like, but I was never like really then being introduced. I was just kind of in the periphery. But then what happened a few months ago was the Virgin Startup team messaged me and said, "Hey, we're going to be doing a flight to Austin or Virgin Atlantic. Would you mind helping them out figure out what to do there?" Sure.
Yeah.
And then they called me and said, "Hey Matt, we're going to be doing this. We need some help, like kind of getting to know the lay of the land. Also, would you mind speaking with Richard?" I was like, "Well, first of all, immediately yes."
Yeah.
And then also, yeah, I'll help you. So I helped them find locations. I immediately said, I think we should do Capital Factory because that was before we were a portfolio company. But I was like, man, that's where like the community is. Like we need to bring him to the community and then bring people in and do that. And then, the bit you remember is we went upstairs. I think you saw me, didn't you? Upstairs in the Capital Factory. And we were sitting in this room all waiting for Richard, and they were just briefing us. And they said, "Oh," and Richard walks in, and they go, "Hi, Richard. This is Bob and Sally, and this is Matt." He said, "I know Matt. Matt, how's it going?" I was like, "Good. How are you?" He's like, and we were just like broing out. And he was like, "How are the kids?" I'm like, "Yeah, good. How are your guys? How's your grandkids?" And we were chatting. He goes, "How's the business? What's going on with it?" And we were chatting, and then the guys went, "Matt, Richard, we need to sort this out." Me and Richard like sitting like naughty boys, like, "Okay, we'll be quiet." But it was cool. And he said, apparently afterwards, I wasn't there. I heard that he said like, "Why didn't you tell me Matt was here?" And I was like, "We did tell you, Richard." And he's like, "Wow, I love the Virgin Startup guys. I always like to see where they're up to and stuff."
That's such a cool because I love when I mean like in kind of like an egotistical way, I guess. But I love when I walk in a room and like someone like kind of a status knows who I am, but I've never had like a billionaire be like, "Corey, what up?" You know?
No, it did mean a lot to me because like. I've seen him. He's always had so much time for people. I've always seen him public speaking. Some people have asked some cringe questions, but he's always given them time and always tried to answer it, understand what they're asking. And he's one of the good ones, I think.
No,
really
for sure.
Is. And I think people do see that in him. But yeah, the fact that he remembered me was like amazing.
That's so cool.
I really appreciated that.
Yeah,
it was cool.
That's very cool. And like speaking of like UK and everything, like what's the difference between like the US startup scene and the UK startup scene? Like how are the founders different? Is the community different? Like I guess we can compare like London to Austin. I guess like what is the difference in
Yeah, well,
London's a much bigger, so maybe like London to LA. Like, I don't know what US cities you have experience with, but
I've experienced lots of weird cities in America as well. And weird cities in England. Like the thing is about America is what I think there is the big bubbles in New York and San Francisco and things like that. And they're fine, but like everyone, it's kind of a little bit more cliquey, cliquey there, and it's everyone's sort of piling over each other to sort of get something done. But I've had a lot of experience with people like places like Arkansas and places like Oklahoma and places like that. These kind of, and there's a lot of investors. Like a lot of our investors do tend to invest outside of the valley and outside of New York. They want to find these companies starting in these small areas, and Austin and San Antonio. But places like those small little places like Tulsa and Oklahoma City and Arkansas, they've got really, really passionate people in there who like love where they live and they want to better the place. And so spending a lot of time there has been amazing because a lot of them are so keen to help each other out. That's really lovely to see. And Austin has that same thing. There's a lot like less ego and more about, hey, how can we help each other out? Like that's just what I like doing. That's why I was like, hey, dude, you should connect with this guy, and because I get a kick out of that.
Exactly.
But London is a funny one. So yeah, I know a bit about the Manchester scene. I don't know if you know Manchester in the UK. Tends to be media companies. A lot of the media companies moved up there. Gotcha. You've got Bristol, which is another major city in the UK, has a lot of tech companies coming out of it, and it's like a lot more affordable to spin up. But London is like there's a lot going on.
Gotcha.
A lot going on. So people like Virgin Startup are running events there, and there's obviously I was involved in a lot of stuff there, like doing talk speaking, and so I do a lot of speaking at technology events, and to do a lot of talking there at different technology events. I guess the people are they're good people, man. There's a lot of people, I think, working less on, there's obviously people working on tech and a variety of things, but I think people tend to be working on a few more kind of ethical things, like kind of startups that sort of save the planet. Or
gotcha.
whatever.
Okay. I think that's like a stronger percentage out there than in like Austin or something like that.
That was my perception. I was obviously when I was doing stuff with Virgin, I would do 2 talks a month for Virgin, one on marketing strategy and one on pitching and presenting, and it'd be a 3-hour long seminar that we do, and we take someone through it. So I typically had about 20 to 25 people in a room at a time, and we would go around and hear all the ideas and just workshop with each other on the curriculum that I created.
I love that. Actually, that's cool. Yeah, I wish we had this here.
Yeah, well, we can spin it up here. I've still got all the content.
Yeah.
And so I got to see a lot of companies, and that was there was a lot of Virgin attracted a lot of food and beverage companies, just because of the way that it was funded. It was easy for them to fund those types of companies because you could easily see profit and loss.
Gotcha.
I'm making this many cans. I'm selling this many cans.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, there's a real variety in London, and it's a real buzz. And a lot of people hang out at Google Campus, which is like
in
Google
London,
has an office there, and they open up the downstairs for anyone just to go and work from and stuff. And
I wish they did that here.
It was really cool.
That'd be so cool.
Really good coffee shop down there.
Wow, that'd be cool. Yeah, this is the second time now I've lived next to a Google campus, and I've never been inside of it. So, what are you guys doing here? How would you compare let's take my happy hours for example. There's like 80, 100 of us just like drinking, hanging out. How would you compare that to like a London happy hour? Like, are you guys just doing those big meetups and just like shaking hands or what?
There's all different types of ones. I used to go to a lot of startup grind ones in London, and they have that here. I've been to one startup grind event here, but it was a bit more low key.
Gotcha.
But that might not be the case for every single one that happens here. My friend was speaking at one. I went to that. It's a bit more low key and a bit more. It was in a capital factory, just like a little side room. And it was like you kind of had to know to be there. But in London, startup grind is pretty prolific, and there's some really good founders that come and talk, and usually there's a bit of drink and stuff available, but you do it right. You do it right. You do some destination stuff and some good top shelf alcohol and some wine and but there's also a better pedigree I'm finding in Austin because London's so big, and like I said, it's a bit cliquey. Sometimes the investors or whatever are not there. The best ones I've had a bit of things like what's it called? Web Summit. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, Web Summit. Yeah.
So I went to Web Summit in Dublin a while ago. When it used to be held in Dublin. It used to be the whole of Dublin, and then they moved from Dublin to Lisbon. Gotcha. And I went to Lisbon one, and there's lots of little parties and cool people there.
Yeah, I think there's a Web Summit in like Germany or something, or Spain coming up that I got invited to, but I was like, I can't really afford that right now. So I might go later next year. But
yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, very cool. So how big is the team right now? How many people do you have on staff?
About 10 people.
10 people? Cool, okay. Do you find that easy to manage, or like is everyone in person, remote? Like what's the kind of setup?
We have a bit of a blend. So we have some people here in Austin. We've got some people in Oklahoma. We've got our tech teams mostly in the UK.
Gotcha.
So we're kind of distributed.
Okay.
So some of us are in the office, but because I've been traveling a lot, it's all been remote right now. I enjoy the collaboration in the office, but and I've always worked at home. Like since I was like 23, working in coffee shops. To me, it's not cool anymore. It's like it's boring.
You're like, get out of my coffee shop. Yeah.
I'm like, because the coffee shop's not the best place to work, is it? And a house isn't often for inspiration and stuff like that, and removing distractions. So as soon as we started hiring people, I wanted to bring people into a space that we could all enjoy together.
Cool. Because I know your space is pretty big. Like for the team you have based in Austin, do you feel like you're underutilizing it, or do you feel like it's used? Because I know you have, I guess a lot of your spaces like backyards. Like, do you feel like it's a good sized office, or what do you think?
Yeah, we're definitely underutilizing it at the moment, just because of the way things are at the moment. But there was a reason for that office, which was I always liked WeWorks as well. I thought they were a cool space to work in until I sort of worked in one, and I wasn't super inspired by them.
Gotcha.
Like I think there's a lot of industrialists make a good space as well. They've got a few spaces in Austin, but we worked in the Domain one here for about a year. And it was just so expensive. Expensive. Like I think I say, how much is this office at the back here? That seems like more of the space we want. They're like, it's like 15-20 grand a month. I'm like, what? Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I just couldn't warrant that. And
I think this whole property here is like 10 or 12K. Yeah. And they have like a second apartment complex.
Really?
That's like,
well, our office is like like less than a 6-person office in WeWork.
That's crazy.
So and now we renovated it, but like I think actually the math I did was like for the first year with the renovations, it's the equivalent of getting a 6-person office in WeWork.
Nice.
After that, it's cheaper.
That's cool. Yeah.
And we wanted to make a space that we could hold events and allow people to hold events there. You know, we did a few. You've been to a few.
It was there. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a few events there, and we wanted to make it a space that anyone could come to and work at. And
if it wasn't so far north, I'd go sometimes, but I hate driving. I'm like 30 minutes up there.
Isn't this more north?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so, but I have to come here to do the podcast. I'm like,
so we need to put a podcast studio.
Exactly.
We got the space. We could do that.
Exactly. So how did COVID affect you guys? Because like, I mean, you're not like, unless if I'm guessing, you're not like a direct COVID hit, like when it comes to that, or did it affect you guys? Like what?
It was. I think it affected everybody. I think in some way or another. So. We were raising our funding in COVID.
Oh god!
So
like early 2020 or
something like that. Like so, we got the first. We'd had a few meetings with our first VC, and then lockdowns were starting to happen. I think we got like wired the money in lockdown, the first part of the money.
Ooh, nice.
And I raised all the rest of the money, 1.3 million in lockdown.
Gotcha.
And then when we came out of lockdown, we tried to pick up anyone who'd been laid off and try and give them a job. So that was quite cool. There was a lot of people available. Where it affected us customer-wise is we had a few hotel chains that couldn't afford to pay and things like that. And no one was really taking any phone calls or buying anything.
Yeah.
Because it was like...
Especially like the Walmarts of the world, like strapping down, figuring out how they're going to like...
Yeah. Well, actually, that's where we blew up with Walmart was in COVID because we were used for all the COVID pre-checks. So
that's right.
But everybody else was like, when people were in discussions at the time, like, look, we don't know what's happening, we don't know where we're going, ways up, which way's down. So just like get back in touch with us in a few months.
Gotcha.
So we did struggle with that, like to sort of like start gaining in momentum early doors. But now I think the way the world's going to go is we're going to go into a deeper recession, I think, and we're a tool that is for compliance. So there's like people buy things because it makes them more money, it saves them money, or compliance reasons. One of the reasons people buy anything. So we actually do compliance, but we actually help you save massive amounts of money. If you take one of those insurance companies, it takes them 30 days and they're 24 hours. Every one of our customers has got one of those stories. So the two things we do is we reduce that time to do something, which is massive time saving, massive cost saving, but we also try and get people promotions in companies because often people who go and implement array in their company, they often get promoted because they're able to implement change. So I think as we go into a deeper recession and people are looking to save money and stuff, we could be one of the victors. We've been cutting costs a lot to become profitable, and that's where we want to be. We want to be a strong, resilient company that makes it through these tough times.
Gotcha. Very cool. And how did you end up in Austin? Actually, I never asked you that. Like, why are you in Austin out of all the cities in the US from the UK?
So when we were starting to move over, it was like over 4 years ago, and it wasn't really kind of like clear that Austin would be, a good place to be for companies or whatever. But we were looking when we were doing all our visa applications and stuff. We were looking where would be good, and we knew that. I felt anyway that San Francisco wasn't going to be the place for us because I think the cost of living is through the roof. I think it's very kind of like, I don't like the city all that much.
But I don't care much for it either. Yeah.
No, I don't care much for it. I've been going there on and off for years and seen it decline, and it was a real shame. And it's quite cliquey and stuff like that. I've got some good friends there, and you're going to be competing for wages against people and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So we wanted to look for like states that maybe didn't have a massive state income tax and stuff like that. So we're looking at places like Florida, we're looking at places like Texas. We looked at places like Oklahoma because a lot of the places like Oklahoma and Arkansas, it might be like, oh, what heck's there? Well, tax incentives. You want to move there, they're going to take care of you and they're going to help you set up however you want. I've got friends that have got decent, beautiful offices and beautiful funding and tax breaks by going to those places. We wanted somewhere where there was a good university to hire people. This is the business reason, right? We're trying to find good people, and we could have a lower cost of living so the wages weren't insane and things like that. And somewhere we could, raise our family and have good outdoor lifestyle, but still have variety and choice.
Yeah.
So we moved over and we sold all our belongings and moved to Cedar Park actually originally, and started building it. And then since then, obviously, Elon Musk has copied me, Joe Rogan's copied me. They were like, Matt, should we move over? I was like, yeah, join us. So they've all joined us now.
Nice.
But it wasn't obvious at the time that that's where it should be. And it's also centrally located in the country, easy to get flights to different places. So there was just lots of like logistical reasons, family reasons.
Yeah.
And that's why we chose to come here.
Yeah, I mean, I my dad's actually from Houston, but I didn't know UT was in Austin. I knew Austin was the capital from like grade school quizzes, but I didn't know anything about Austin until about 3 or 4 years ago, right when you moved here. And people started talking.
Yeah. Well, I was looking, it's like, well, look, there's at the time, you know where the Yeti place is on South Congress, or Congress anyway. There used to be a Techstars there, so that was Techstars, and then I was like, oh well, there's a Techstars here. There's Apple putting another presence because Apple had announced a second doubling down into Austin at the time, and so we're like, wow, Apple are thinking there's something good there. And then Google were expanding their presence, so there was the hallmarks of something there,
for sure.
And we were like, well, that looks good, and it looks like they're looking after companies. It looks like there's good people there. People who come out of university don't leave; they want to stay. Because a lot of places, people graduate from university and then will move home or move somewhere else for better work. But Austin's a good place to stay. It's a good place to raise a family, but it's also a good place to party and have fun and be single as well. So it's pretty wicked like that.
It is a really cool, like, kind of best of both worlds. I mean, I mentioned on this podcast a lot how much I hate the humidity in the summer, but I'm sure you're used to that with London. Like,
humidity, no.
Is London not humid at all?
It's like constant rain in your face.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I knew it rained a lot, but I could have sworn summers were like stupid hot.
Well, the thing is we don't have air conditioning. So as soon as you get heat, you're screwed.
Gotcha.
And there's no way to cool down at night.
Is it just hot in the summer? I swear I've heard London summers are really hot. Am I
they can be really, really hot, but there is no relief from it. That's the thing. There's no relief.
Okay.
It does get really humid here, right? But it's I like swimming. I like outdoor swimming, and I like wild swimming, and I love all the natural springs and stuff. But it's cooling down now, isn't it? Like it's
been a good week.
Oh my goodness, I've been loving it, and I love like getting up in the morning and having my coffee because I'm sort of in the hill country and like seeing these rolling, and it's actually cool in the morning.
Yeah,
it's
exactly. I like a cold like 60 to 70 morning is my favorite. Like I just gotta like hang out on the porch, just like get a little bit of work done. Yeah, I love that. You're doing a lot of traveling for work, and we kind of mentioned like Arkansas, Oklahoma, and everything like that. Like, why are you driving all these distances? Like, what do you feel like you need to be in person to do these like what are you doing this for?
Well, I've always done a lot of traveling because we've got some investors in Oklahoma because I said we have investors that are outside of the normal kind of hubs. I think you need to try and get outside the office and you need to meet people where you can. I think people get very lazy when it comes to meeting people and putting on pants and going out a little bit.
Do you feel like that 18 hours cumulative drive is worth your time though? Is it like
well, the program we're in right now is, like I said, it's funded by the Walton family, and
they're in Arkansas.
So Walmart's like founded in Bentonville in Arkansas.
No, I didn't know that.
The whole town is basically Walmart.
I feel like I heard that sometime, but okay, good to know.
There's a Walmart museum there that's got Sam Walton's original truck. Because he was like a bit of a, he kept things cheap and stuff and whatnot.
Gotcha.
But so we're there because this program is running, and they prefer it if you're there. And there's a few other startups that are involved in it. But that's how business is done in those areas where you meet people. We've had so many. I can't say all the names right now because we're in like early stages with some of these brands and some of these big companies. But I can tell you about the companies that are like, because Walmart's there.
Exactly.
Because they're there. There's literally everybody within kind of retail operations and logistics right there in Bentonville. Gotcha. And you can turn around and then be someone here who's head of IT at Walmart or whatever, right? And you can go meet with these people and talk with them. And you shouldn't. I never try and enter into a conversation like, what can I get from this person? But you can help each other out, and they'll be like happy to make introductions and stuff. And so was it 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever? You can get to like the person you need. So sometimes I'll go to people and go, hey, I want someone in this company, and then I get a meeting with Sam's Club within a week. It's cool. Like, so that might not even be the right person, or they might be digging it, but there's so much you can learn from that. And in a startup environment, you can continue to hone product market fit, addressable market, user persona by speaking to these people in such an honest, transparent way. It's been really enjoyable. So that's why I've been there. My colleague's down there today. He checked into his hotel today. So He's going to hold down the fort this week. I'm going to be there next week. And I'm pitching a bit there.
Cool.
And then there's one more week. And then again, it sort of includes in like a startup weekend there or something. Like we got Startup Week in Austin this week, I think, haven't we?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. We have like the Venture Weeks this week, and then Austin Startup Week is the 14th to 17th of November. So
okay.
It's about a month from now.
Okay, good. So I'll be here for that as well.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's something like that in Arkansas, having like a big tech event, and we're pitching at that and things like that. So again, you just don't know who you're going to meet, and there's just a lot of really good people that you can just get things done. I think I've always, like before I even moved there, I was traveling to San Francisco, meeting people, and all my contacts at like investment firms like Sequoia or people at Dropbox, because a few years ago Dropbox were taking a little sniff at us, and so we were meeting a lot of people there and stuff like that, and you just get to meet cool people.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's a really good intersection between like, is it worth driving somewhere and meeting in person or a Zoom call? And I think you're clearly in the right. I mean, like meeting, like for me, it's for fitness. Like whenever I fly to one of these conferences, I'll close like the biggest deal of my life every time. Like it's like just shaking hands with these people. And especially that second time around, when you see them for the second time, like the Richard Branson story, it's like if he had met you the first time or the second time, he might not have known who you were, and now you're like buddy with him when he's in Austin. So that's definitely worth it. I do think a lot of founders make the mistake of driving very far distances, like for normal things that could be done on a phone call. I find myself constantly like driving somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I should not be driving to this place. So
it's like dating. You don't want to be too thirsty too early. So don't be too thirsty too early. But like put yourself in that town for a week.
Exactly.
And with a few meetings that you have, and with maybe, sometimes you want a follow-up meeting. So keep it chill at first. Do those little initial discovery calls.
Exactly.
And then have then go for a coffee or something with somebody, or try and coincide it with a networking event that's happening there or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's that first or second meeting, and like I try and go to as many fitness SaaS related things that I can, because like those in-person connections.
There'll be tons of them. Really?
Well, there's a lot of sorry, not the not
fitness tech.
Yeah, not that. Just fitness in general.
Yeah.
Which actually I guess ends up being a lot of tech. And then I've been to very few SaaS events, but I want to fly out to like typically they're in Europe, I think. But I want to go to there's a big SaaS. It's called like SaaSter, I think, or something like that. I don't even know. But I want to go to.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in Barcelona as well.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you a question. Do you find that in the fitness industry there's a lot of like people just in the like kind of pyramid sales of like nutrition and stuff like that? A lot of noise, that kind of noise.
For sure. There's so much, which is why I'm glad we switched to enterprise, like similar to where you guys are in. It's easier for us to close. It takes longer, of course, but it's easier for us to close. And there's way less pyramid schemes, independent people like thinking they know what they're talking about. It's like it's an enterprise company. They either say yes or they don't. It's usually a quick conversation, or it's usually like a quick intro, and then we're on to the next. So similar to what you guys were doing, like it's like I'm very happy to be out of the gimmicky fitness world and be moving into like working with like adults, basically. Like
that's something I learned quite early on, because like I said, when I quit that full-time gig and was building websites for people, we started building a product that was based on WordPress, where it could spin up like ready-made templates. That sounds really obvious now, but it wasn't 10, 12 years ago or whatever. That wasn't super obvious. So we built these like little WordPress templates, and we were selling them to trade association kind of people. Like one of our first verticals was bounce houses.
Nice.
Yeah, we call them bouncy castles in England.
Nice.
So they were not the best kind of customers. This is their, like, they have a normal job usually, but then they do this on the weekends, and they have like such high demands for a bounce house website. And we're like, oh my goodness, we thought this would be easy, but it was really like a one-to-many type thing. And it was my first experience about learning how to sort of package something as like a software as a service type product. And then we were getting quite a bit of monthly income from it for a while, but going for those smaller people, there's so much more headache that can come with smaller businesses. I decided when I started Array, I wanted to move into a sort of like more of an enterprise space, and I knew I wanted to do B2B as a product, because I feel like if you do a B2B product and you actually genuinely add value, then it's just they buy it.
That's literally exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like when we're working with these independent coaches, I feel like a lot of the times they don't understand all of the things that they're getting, so they're not as willing to like move forward. And then every gym we talk to is like, how much does this cost? And they're like, okay, cool, let's do it. And it's like this
Yeah, and we you can come on Array's website and we have a free account, and by all means, but anyone who wants to do that, please do that. It's there for people who it's like 10 submissions a month. Anyone wants that, have at it, right? That's what it's there for. But what it allows us to do is like have basically an endless trial. If that's what you want, then great, have fun. But we try and get people into the pro plans when the relevant features kind of are needed. And what I mean by that is that if you're not seriously needing this, then you shouldn't buy it, because like the people we've had in the past that just kind of, this seems like quite a cool idea, I could use it here, they're probably going to churn. But the people that we actually, the right user personas that we get that may start small but scale up, they never churn. We have like zero churn on those right customers, because it's genuinely mission critical and it genuinely solves the problem. Where the smaller companies, like, they can come and go. So we purposely try and target them. So the packs are on our website. Some people will sign up and love it forever, but the chances are it's just a way for someone to start getting hooked to what we do and introduce them to the more advanced features and functionality that we offer up in the pro plan.
Cool.
Because we used to have it where everyone kind of got the pro plan, but with slightly limited kind of like functionality or submissions or something. But the problem is it was just too much for people who weren't ready to fully commit. So if you go to our free plan on our start and essential, they're like much simpler UIs, really simple UIs, and it's to help you have success using that one functionality, and then grow from there.
Very cool. I'd actually like that. I'm trying to think of how that would apply to my business. I'll work on that idea, but I like
talk
that.
about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, because our free trial is just like open. It has everything, which is cool, but at the same, which is also kind of like,
how long is it? 14 days, 30 days? 14
days, but then your first user is free forever though. So it's like we have a lot of coaches that are on that one plan because they only have one client. So but anyways, we can get into that.
Yeah.
What's a day-to-day like for you? Like what's a typical, like, what time do you wake up? When do you go to bed? What are you doing throughout the day?
Well, you have to try and be disciplined as a founder, but like that's the hardest thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes, I've had seasons in my life where I'm kicking butt with things, and other times I'm not. Like, and I can remember some good times where I felt particularly, on the ball. But then, when we were in our apartment, I was going to the gym all the time, and then COVID hit and they shut our gym down, and then we moved to buy a house. And so I wish I, had a bit more exercise in, so I can sort of tell you about what I do now and where I'm sort of working towards on that sort of routine and stuff like that. But probably get up about either 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. So 6 a.m. is like normal, which is like get up, have that coffee, try again. A good day, I'll do some meditation, and I actually have an ice bath that I'll jump into. That's a good day. That doesn't happen every day, but I try and breathe every day. And then I get my kid ready and I take her to school. If I'm here, if I'm not, I still do the same thing when I'm in a hotel or something like that. The 5 a.m. is like I've started doing some more sort of like early morning workout routines and stuff with some groups and stuff, and they tend to start at 5. That's why 5's in there, and then I'll try, I usually have calls at like 9 a.m. something like that. So I usually do some calls, and I try and catch up with my UK team, because by that point it's getting to like late afternoon. My team's in Ukraine, so like if I don't get to them by like 10, it's like 7 p.m. Have you seen disruption in having a Ukrainian team? Well, they're they're still doing good, thankfully. They're living their lives. They're Western Ukraine. It was super sad to be super sad to be a part of that right when it started. Thankfully, like they're mostly back to normal lives from what I understand. I mean, they're working every day. They're like, going out, that kind of stuff. But obviously like not an ideal, scenario. Right. Yeah. There's a company I consulted for, and they have a Russian developer. And he got out of the country and he went back in to sort some affairs out, and now they're conscribing people. So he's not allowed for the military. Dang. I know, right? Wow. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. But anyway, my day. So I'll catch up with my UK team, and then I try and kind of like, catch up with emails or write a list of things I need to do. I try and sort of goal orientated on what we're doing. Yeah, and then it's work until 6. If I'm away, I work till 9 o'clock. Exactly. But I've got kids and stuff, so like I try and get done by 5 or so. Try and do something, before they get too hungry. We try and go to a park or go, play in the yard or something like that, and then dinner, and then try and get to bed by 10. Yeah. Do you feel pressure as a founder, or like because I feel like at a certain stage a lot of founders get out of this, but like do you feel like you're obviously you guys are still growing and like, you're doing a lot of revenue, but like you want to do more, of course, and so it's like, do you feel pressure to like work longer hours, like work till midnight some nights, or like are you at a point now where you're like, I can work 9 to 5 and I'm happy, like kind of for me, like I worked weekends for years, and especially when I was working from home, you kind of keep going and going. But like things change. So the couple of things that changed was one, having kids. Like you want, if you want to have kids, then hopefully you want to spend time with them.
Exactly.
And second of all, like I don't think you're very useful if you keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
If you just kind of work every single day, you're no good. Like I'm pretty burnt out at the moment because I was away all last week, and I would work. I did the 6 a.m., 5 a.m. things. I went to like 2 5 a.m. things when I was away, and then I'll work till 9 o'clock. And then I'll sleep and repeat, and then I drove like 8-9 hours, and that's why my voice sounds a bit groggy and stuff, because I literally it does tend to have a kind of biological effect on you where you literally just get run down. So you kind of need the weekends to. I find I could do with the weekends just to like let your brain settle, let your kind of memories and thoughts kind of settle and readjust and think about things and talk to your partner or whatever about nice things and about what you want to do, and then go to the week. And I have to, because I have my business life and I have my personal life, but we're applying for different types of visas and we're doing this and doing that, and so there's also personal business that needs to get done.
Yeah, of course.
And time to do that and talk about it.
Isn't that the worst when you bust your ass all day for your company and then you get like a dental bill, or like you're like, oh, my car needs to get fixed, and you're like, fuck, like I just worked for like 20 hours and now I have to figure out. Oh yeah, of course I have like real life things to focus on too.
Well, adulting is all just
exactly.
You have. Yeah, and it annoys me. I get really annoyed when I'm like, oh, now I have to be on the phone with this bullcrap thing about this credit card or something like that. I got a really big medical bill. If you know, like I stabbed myself in the hand in March.
When?
Yeah, and that's what set me back a bit.
We're at. I was looking at that the entire podcast, and I wanted to know what it was, but I was like, I didn't know if it was like a birth thing, so I didn't.
No, there you go. They had to retrieve my tendon from my thumb. So it was my kid's birthday, and I had this knife actually in my pocket.
Okay.
And I cleaned it, and I was just sort of leveraging a cable tie, and I thought it was fine, and I slipped, and I went into my thumb.
God.
And I went, oh my god. I was like, okay, I'm bad. I think do you mind just taking me to A&E, please?
Yeah.
Did you call that here? Accident emergency.
Oh yeah, it's
ER.
Emergency ER. Yeah.
So and they stitched it, and then they went, dude, press my thumb, and my tendon snapped. Oh, and he said, you need to go to surgery in the next few days, otherwise you'll lose function. So
oh my god.
The surgery was worse. So they had to thread it back. So there's massive medical bills, and because obviously being founders, like we don't have typical health insurance like other people. We get creative with it. I do have health insurance, but we try not to burden the company with too much stuff like that. So I pay for all that myself, and that sucks. I feel bad. Oh, sure. And it was really put me down for a while because you couldn't do anything, because I couldn't do any exercise, I couldn't tie my shoelaces up.
That's terrible. Wait, I know Canada, I'm pretty sure Canada does UK have like whatever it's called, universal health insurance, whatever?
It's called the NHS, National Health Service, and so everything's free.
That's annoying for you to be here and have to pay for that shit.
But I appreciate getting good service and like proper plastic surgeons and proper follow-ups and stuff like that. I mean, the American healthcare is probably like for like the service you get is probably one of the best in the world. So this is not meant to be political and but there's a lot more money. So there's maybe bullcrap charges that are getting put in, and you need to keep an eye on that, and people need to figure out how we can pay for healthcare. But it's a higher service.
Yeah, but you're confident it's gonna get done correctly. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So as are you a solo founder? I don't know if I asked you.
No, I am and I'm not. Yes, but my wife has always been really involved from day one.
Oh, cool. Does she work at the company too?
Yeah, she does all the payroll. She does a little bit less at the moment. In the early days, she was like QAing the app and working with the app team and stuff.
So cool.
But now she's more like she does payroll. She works with our bookkeepers and our accountants to make sure everything's lined up right. She works with our marketing team to make sure we use things like ChartMogul to track MRR, ARR.
Yeah, well, I just signed up for that this week. Actually.
It's really good. I can show you some stuff if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
Because we synchronize our bookkeeping software along with our Stripe and things like that. Yeah. And so she makes sure that stays in line, because those sort of things can get knocked out quite easily if you have like a one-off invoice that creeps in and stuff like that.
Okay, so you're kind of a solo founder. So let's say that you were.
No, my wife's been involved in it since the beginning, and we had a client of mine who funded it very early. So those e-commerce sites and those UX clients I had in the very early days, one of those guys believed in me and believed in the idea and helped us fund it.
Gotcha.
And bootstrap it. So I never got paid for years, but we paid for our CTO, and he and we just got building.
Cool, nice, man. If you like, let's say you are a solo founder, like because you are like you have people that have supported you, but what would be like the things that you wouldn't be good at if you were like just like as you are like right now? What categories of being a startup founder like are you not good at, or are you less good at? I guess.
I'm good at all of it now. I've had to learn over the years. Like, I'm more competent in more areas than I have been. But definitely, like, I'm not, drawn to financials and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm a product-orientated founder.
Same. I love products so much.
I'm a designer.
Yeah.
So the numbers didn't come naturally to me, and no one was ever, teaching me what those were and stuff like that. So I had to figure those things out, figure out how to raise money, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't necessarily work out things through just bare numbers, but I look at it by talking to people and talking to customers and things like that.
And when you guys are fundraising, like what are you pitching to these investors? Are you saying like we're going to transform how companies handle documentation, or like what is like the end game like $1 billion dream for you guys when you're pitching?
Well, yeah, that's the thing you've got to nail down, and maybe what your vision is, and the investors needs to align correctly.
So when you're pitching to these investors, like what are you pitching? Like you're the future of documentation for enterprise. Like you're going to be $1 billion company. Like what is the pitch that you're presenting to raise all the funding you guys have raised? Yeah,
I think it's important to make sure that the investor knows that you're laser focused on what you're solving today, because what Airbnb do today, or what Uber does today, they had to have a solid kind of starting business in one discipline, and then they can expand out. So we make sure people understand the value we're adding today and how we're helping people today with forms and automation and document creation. So it's, removing these manual tasks and things like that.
Gotcha.
But where we're going now more is into this app building kind of ecosystem, but making sure they fully understand what we're doing and how we're competing. Like right now, I wouldn't say we compete toe to toe with something like Power Apps, but we're not far off, and we're just around the corner.
Are you're trying to become a Power Apps? Is that kind of the direction?
Gotcha. Yeah, but Power Apps is how we're very different. We have one of those, a competitor analysis kind of board and stuff. It's like we want to be enterprise. We are enterprise, but Power Apps is like you need to be able to code, and it's very complex. And some companies, without naming names, have got themselves in a bit of trouble from using those applications because too many people can see what they're doing and stuff, basically.
Gotcha.
So they're not. There's ways to make mistakes and stuff in there. We're trying to do that in a no-code way so that operations people can build these internal applications. Because for too long, there's things like Oracle and SAP and Microsoft have been around in those spaces, offering people, a perception of stability, but zero flexibility and zero kind of control over those, and with massive implementation periods.
Gotcha.
So we're trying to flatten that time for implementation, give the power into the hands of people who know what they're doing. And so what we're proposing is that we're making tools that do that for them.
Gotcha.
So the big plan is this big ecosystem to basically kill a fillable PDF and to kill these legacy tools. But today we have to be very disciplined in who we help today, what we help and what we do today, and demonstrate them how the product is changing and evolving to move into something very, very, very powerful.
Love it, man. Well, I think I just have one last question. How can the audience of the Why We Strive podcast help you? Like, is there someone they should introduce you to? Like, how can they get involved? Should they sign up for an account? Like, what are you looking for?
Well, I'll turn to the camera. So
camera 1, camera 2, camera 3.
Okay, I'll pick one. Yeah. So I guess if you guys are an enterprise company or know people who are in those kind of areas that we work within in big retail, quick serve, or in insurance, then please reach out. We'd love to help you. If you just like free forms technology, please sign up and help yourself to the free account. If you're a non-profit or something like that and you'd like a bit more help with the pricing or billing, please reach out. We'd love to sort of support you you and help you in those areas. If there's any interns out there, people who love product, love people, and would love to get some exposure working with a company like ours, hopefully you're in the Austin area. You can come out hanging out with us in Austin. We'd love you to come on board and come and help with us and work with us. Or if you just want to talk startup and come to these events, and come and say hi.
There we go. Buildarray.com. I'll put a little link right here. There you go. Matt, it was a pleasure, and that's why we strive.
Thanks, man.
Good stuff, man. I wanted to thank you for watching this entire episode of Why We Strive. Be sure you head to whywestrive.com and subscribe, so every Tuesday you can see incredible interviews with some of the best tech founders, investors, and creatives in the industry. Have an amazing day, and don't forget to keep striving.